Good morning and welcome back to the reading of the book of Judges. But before we begin, a small prayer. Father, as I read and receive your word, may it deeply be rooted in me, so when difficulty comes, it will be your word that encourages and strengthens me. Amen. The nations left in Canaan, chapter 3. The Lord left certain nations in the land to test those Israelites who had not participated in the wars of Canaan. He did this to teach warfare to generations of Israelites who had no experience in battle. These were the nations: the Philistines, those living under the 5 Philistine rulers, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Hivites living in the hill country of Lebanon, from the Mount Baal Hermon to Lebo Hamath. These people were left to test the Israelites to see whether they would obey the commands of the Lord had given to their ancestors through Moses. So Israel lived among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and they intermarried with them. Israelite sons married their daughters. Israelite daughters were given in marriage to their sons, and the Israelites worshipped their gods. Othniel becomes Israel's judge. The Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight. They forgot about the Lord their God, and they worshipped the images of Baal and Asherah poles. Then the Lord burned with anger against Israel, and he handed them over to King Cushan Rishathaim, or Aram Naharaim, and the Israelites were subject to Cushan Rishathaim for 8 years. But when Israel cried out to the Lord for help, the Lord raised up a man to rescue them. His name was Othniel, the son of Caleb's younger brother, Kenaz. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he became Israel's judge. He went to war against King Cushan Rishathaim of Aram, and the Lord gave Othniel victory over him. So there was peace in the land for 40 years. Then Othniel, son of Kenaz, died. Ehud becomes Israel's judge. Once again, the Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord gave King Eglon of Moab control over Israel. Together with the Amorites and Amalekites, Eglon attacked Israel and took possession of Jericho. And the Israelites were subject to Eglon and Moab for 18 years. But when Israel cried out to the Lord for help, the Lord raised up a man to rescue them. His name was Ehud, son of Gera, the tribe of Benjamin, who was left-handed. The Israelites sent Ehud to deliver their tax money for King Eglon of Moab. So Ehud made himself a double-edged dagger that was 18 inches long, and he strapped it to his right thigh, keeping it hidden under his clothing. He brought the tax money to Eglon, who was very fat. After delivering the payment, Ehud sent home those who had carried the tax money. But when Ehud reached the stone carvings near Gilgal, he turned back. He came to Eglon and said, "I have a secret message for you." So the king commanded his servants to be silent and sent them all out of the room. Ehud walked over to Eglon as he was sitting alone in a cool upstairs room and said, "I have a message for you from God." As King Eglon rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, pulled out a dagger, and strapped his right thigh, and plunged it into the king's belly. The dagger went so deep that the handle disappeared beneath the king's fat. Wow. So Ehud left the dagger in, and the king's bowels emptied. Then Ehud closed and locked the doors and climbed down the latrine and escaped through the sewage access. After Ehud was gone, the king's servants returned and found the doors to the upstairs room locked. They thought he might be using the latrine. So they waited, but when the king didn't come out after a long delay, they became concerned and got a key. And when they opened the door, they found their master dead on the floor. While the servants were waiting, Ehud escaped, passing the idols on his way to Syria. When he arrived in the hill country of Ephraim, Ehud sounded a call to arms. Then he led a band of Israelites down from the hills. "Follow me," he said, "for the Lord has given you victory over Moab, your enemy." So they followed him, and the Israelites took control of the shallows of the Jordan River across from Moab, preventing anyone from crossing. They attacked the Moabites and killed about 10,000 of their strongest and bravest warriors. Not one of them escaped. So Moab was conquered by Israel that day, and the land was at peace for 80 years. Chapter 4. Shamgar becomes Israel's judge. After Ehud, Shamgar, son of Anath, rescued Israel. He killed 600 Philistines with an ox goad. Deborah becomes Israel's judge. After Ehud's death, the Israelites again did what was evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord handed them over to King Jabin of Hazor, a Canaanite king. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Haggayim. Sisera, who had 900 iron chariots, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was a prophet who had become a judge in Israel. She would hold court under the palm of Deborah, which stood between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites came to her to settle their disputes. One day she sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, who lived in Kadesh in the land of Naphtali. She said to him, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Assemble 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali, Zebulun, and Mount Tabor. I will lure Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, along with his chariots and warriors to the Kishon River. There I will give you victory over him." Barak told her, "I will go, but only if you go with me." "Very well," she replied, "I will go with you. But since you have made this choice, you will receive no honor. For the Lord's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. At Kadesh, Barak called together the tribes of Zebulun, Naphtali, and 10,000 warriors marched up with him. Deborah also marched with him. Now Heber the Kenite, a descendant of Moses' brother-in-law Joab, had moved away from the other members of his tribe and pitched his tent by the oak of Zenonim near Kadesh. When Sisera was told that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, he called for all 900 of his iron chariots and all of his warriors, and they marched from Harosheth Haggayim to the Kishon River. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Get ready, today the Lord will give you victory over Sisera, for the Lord is marching ahead of you." So Barak led his 10,000 warriors down the slopes of Mount Tabor into battle. When Barak attacked, the Lord threw Sisera and all his chariots and warriors into a panic. Then Sisera leaped down from the chariot and escaped on foot. Barak chased the enemy and all their chariots all the way to Harosheth Haggayim, killing all of Sisera's warriors. Not a single one was left alive. Meanwhile, Sisera ran to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because Heber's family was on friendly terms with the king Jabin of Hazor. Jael went to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come into my tent, sir. Come in, don't be afraid." So he went into her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. "Please give me some water," he said. "I'm thirsty." So she gave him some milk to drink and covered him again. "Stand at the door of the tent," he told her. "If anybody comes and asks you if there's anyone here, say no." But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him with a hammer and tent peg. Then she drove the tent peg through his temple and into the ground, and so he died. When Barak came looking for Sisera, Jael went out to meet him. She said, "Come and I will show you the man you are looking for." So he followed her into the tent and found Sisera laying there dead, with the tent peg through his temple. So that day Israel saw God subdue Jabin the Canaanite king, and from that time on Israel became stronger and stronger against King Jabin, until they finally destroyed him. I'm going to actually end there today. Chapter 5 looks kind of long. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will read to you tomorrow. Have a blessed one.